Hello, I'm Tony Mitra, and today is the 4th of September 2023. I'm in my home, Delta, BC, Canada. And I decided to make this video to explain myself and my perception of what is going around in the world and why it is important even for me living in this corner of Canada. You see, the deep states taking over of the Canada, of the whole world in this new world order has been talked about for a long time, and we activists couldn't stay still without protesting. And this protesting for me started long time ago, and when there was no perception of the new world order. It was at that time, for me, it started with toxification of food, or the capturing of the whole world's agriculture system by corporations who decided to make a huge profit by toxifying agriculture, making people sick and making agriculture subservient to the Western technology, which is based on poison and chemical input. And then it was supported, the whole thing was supported by big pharma, because if people became sick, then it was good business for them. So that is how realization came up that the Western control of agriculture was a very big thing for the whole world, and it was something to be resisted. That is how my activism took shape, and it gained focus and time as I retired from my professional work, so I could devote more time in it, and that resulted in some good outcome. I managed to force the Canadian government to be the only country to carry out wholesale food test for glyphosate and give me the results, and then publishing a book. So the activism has not been completely useless. But lately, with the onset of COVID and masks and lockdown and vaccine, and then eventually to Ukraine war and subsequent events have made me question my activism. The activism is a kind of second nature. Protesting what should be protested is a second nature, but as I have gone older, I have begun to introspect on the plus and minus of my kind of activism. Yes, it is necessary to protest against this so-called deep state takeover of the whole planet, not just food and not just agriculture, but every aspect of the economy to be subservient to a select few, shadowy people, unidentifiable people, by them controlling the governments of the world, starting with the West, carrying out policies that support this new world order, this new system by which the world is supposed to function. So the new world order became a catchphrase, and protesting that became the thing to do for the public. But, and there is a big but in my judgment, is that the protests after long time of this last 4 years, in fact, ever since COVID was declared, these protests in Canada seem to be dissatisfying to me, in the sense that the protest groups, knowingly or unknowingly, are wasting time on frivolous things that ultimately don't matter so much, instead of getting their act together and working in a unified voice. Locally, that means in lower mainland, and then to expanding on to the other provinces of Canada, so that it has a whole national unity in protesting in some form. and then expanding to globally, because it is a global problem. The forces coming to disrupt our lifestyle and all that is a global problem, and the deep state is sort of acting globally. But that did not happen. In fact, the fragmentation pissed me the most. This fragmentation of protesting groups, each person's trying to be the king of his little hill, little molehill, pissed me off. It really showed that I'm wasting my time. I'm probably wasting my time. These group protests are not going anywhere. My opinion, it does not need to be yours. And I'm explaining myself not for you and not for the listeners of today, but hopefully if the world survives this crisis in some fashion, and hopefully in the future, maybe my descendants, some of them will try to find out what I said. Let's see what that old man said, 50 years ago or 40 years ago. And I don't know if mankind will survive this time, but I'm making this to explain myself to the future, not to the present. Present, I don't believe anybody will watch me or anybody will have time, or maybe 10-15% will watch me. It doesn't matter, because the world is 8 billion strong. If 4 or 5 people watch me or 1,000 people watch me, it makes no difference. So what is it I'm trying to say? I'm beginning to suspect that a lot of these protest groups are out for themselves and not for the people. Self-criticism is an important fact to improve anything. And there is no self-criticism among these protesting groups in Canada. I doubt if there is any self-criticism of any group anywhere in the world. So that is one major gripe. Second is they cannot get together. These groups are not even talking with neighbors, let alone across the province and across nations, across globally, not talking with each other. Thirdly, they are not making an impact. The general population, in Canada at least, not joining them and in a way avoiding them and considering them as kind of nutcases. They need to be, perhaps they're creating more nuisance than anything else, and they would secretly like them to shut up and go away. The only meaningful protest that happened in Canada that shook up the world, that energized the world, was the truckers convoy in Ottawa. And that was done by none of these protest groups, none. It came up organically from the people, from the truckers, and that shook up the world. And then what happened. The country, the Canada, is no more a democracy. It's a vicious dictatorship under the thumb of globalist or New World Order, whatever. And we have surrendered our freedom of speech, freedom of expression, right to life, liberty, everything. And now there is rumor of second phase of the lockdown and masking coming on a new cockamamie theory of another pandemic. So in this perspective, and with my age, I have decided to focus more on my views and less on what other people are saying and what the next week's protest is, where the next week's protest is, and all that. I have gotten disillusioned by everything that is happening around the world with regard to protesting the New World Order. And I'm also keenly aware of a new tectonic shift happening in the world with regard to this New World Order. The New World Order planned by globalists, by deep state, is not the only alternative now. Organically, new alternatives are coming up. Some of them are focused on Ukraine war, false flag war, and some of them are not focusing on Ukraine war, but a real geopolitical shift and balance of power happening through BRICS, through Shanghai Cooperation, through the rise of anti-French rise of freedom-minded people in Africa. That is the new focus of the world. everywhere there is a new rising and challenge of the Western hegemony and the rise of a multipolar world and system. And this multipolar system is happening organically, which challenges the digital currency of one kind, that is the one that are perceived here in Canada. But there is another kind of digital currency happening to the other part of the world that this group is not aware of. The new currency is being planned for a reserve currency of the world trade, non-dollar or away from the dollar, and based on gold or commodities and not based on fiat currency. Whole lot of things are happening, and happening without active participation of these protest groups in Canada. And I suspect protest groups everywhere. It is the groups that are protesting are not part of this organic change happening around the world. And I have decided to park myself on the global, this new tectonic shift happening. Not that I am a party to this, or not that I will make any impact on this, or I as an individual can make any significant contribution to this, but I want to ride this new change because that is the future. I believe that the protest groups in Canada, in Lower Mainland, unless they can get their act together and talk with one voice, if not across Canada for a start, at least across Lower Mainlands and across BC and so on, unless they can talk in one voice, get their act together, I am not part of. I'm disillusioned by this, and I think I'm wasting my time. I'm 73 years old plus. I'm going towards 74. I don't have a heck of a lot of time. I have done few things good, and all of them single-handed without joining any group. One of them is forcing Canadian government to test food and disclose the results to me. Second is I started growing food in my own backyard, whatever little possible, to divorce myself from this increasing toxification of food in Canada and in North America and across the world. I started making as much food as I can in this little time, and I'm a little plot, and I'm not son of a farmer. I have no farming experience. My father was a professor in fine arts, but I learned, and I got enough help from local farmers, local small farmers, and farming exchange and all that. So I learned, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned from my mistakes, and I have been enriched with that. That I did on my own without joining any protest groups. The third thing is, by my common sense, I refused all vaccines. Last time I had a vaccine was 8 years old in India. It was a TABC or something, which was everybody was taking. But after that, I have shunned it because common sense was one thing, and the scientists that taught me real biology and microbiology and immunology is another thing. And I learned to respect my immune system, natural immune system, which is progressively fine-tuned over 4 billion years of existence of living creatures. We have inherited all of that from immune system that belong to single cell organism all the way to the animals and all the way to the primates and all the way to the hominids and all the way to modern man. So this is a long process of hidden trial and seeing what works, and I cannot not respect this. And man-made medication and systems and vaccines and all of that disrupt the natural function of the immune system, in my belief. So, and I have some scientific background now, after learning from the scientists in USA, to believe in that the most respect I should pay is to my own immune system and not to jeopardize it. So this trend of not taking any vaccine, forget about COVID vaccine, not flu vaccine, not any vaccine, not tetanus vaccine, not what do you call other illness vaccine, nothing. And what is the result? Well, I have fantastic result. I have not been sick with any infection for last 65 years. I don't get sick even for one day. If that does not teach me something, nothing ever will. So I am not interested in what the medical journal and what the pharmacist and what the doctors and what this promoters of World Health Organization, Bill Gates and all that. I am not interested in any of that because I have my own life example. How many people in the world can claim that they have not been ill even for one day for 65 years? How many people can say that? I can say that. So I don't need this distraction from little people. I also believe that many of these groups, not all maybe, but many of these groups are directly or indirectly linked with either controlled opposition, being manipulated by people like George Soros, not directly but indirectly. Some of them may not even know that they are being controlled. That is the best kind of control opposition, where the opposition doesn't know that they are being controlled. They think they are doing the right thing, but actually they are guided to do something less than the right thing. There's something that will produce no result except them feeling good that we did something worthwhile. But otherwise they will not. So some of them are like that. Some of them are just egotistical so-and-so. And the only natural thing that Canada did and shook up the world was truckers convoy. It was a crowdfunded thing, and I donated twice $100 each. I didn't get it back, but Canadian government, the Trudeau government, did me a favor by passing my whereabouts, my phone number, and my address and all that to paid shills. Call centers in USA and elsewhere, and I got a threatening call that government knows all my activity with which supported the truckers convoy, and how I am a loser, and how I'll be, the government will be targeting me from now on, and I deserve it and all that. And I told that lady to shut up and go away, because these things don't scare me. I am beyond scaring, because I'm old. I have nothing much to live for. If I have to die, I have to die. I know that other people are not so fortunate like me. They still have a job, and they can lose their job. My wife lost her job because she refused to take the COVID vaccine, and we could absorb that shock, but some people cannot. So all these things are there, and I decided to make henceforth videos not only sharing other people who are agreeable with me and who analyze their respective fields, their experts, military experts on Ukraine or globalism or multipolar world and all that. Apart from that, I am beginning to make my own video, because none of these experts, none of the government agencies, nobody, none of the podcasters, none of the people in social media or private or mainstream media are trying to connect all the dots together and trying to explain why we are having this problem, why the whole world seems to be, not whole world, but NATO and West seems to be singularly focused on destroying Russia. It is nothing to do with Ukraine. Ukraine is gone. Ukraine is finished. And Ukraine has sacrificed itself knowingly. The corruption in Ukraine is to be seen to be believed. And they have selected to be the sacrificial lamb. One small section of it being the sacrificial lamb to be used against Russia directly, and in a war where this small section of Ukraine will disappear. They'll be destroyed, and majority of them will migrate, because Ukraine is the shit country. It is so corrupt that it is beyond belief. All kinds of nasty things happen there, but they can safely migrate to better countries in the West. Canada is one of them, and then earn government subsidy and make money and have a cushy life, and that is Ukraine's future. In other words, there will be no Ukraine. But why this fixation with Russia? Why the fixation with destroying Russia? it is not just Putin. It is no more. The world no more wants a regime change in Putin. This West wants complete destruction of Russia. The name Russia should not exist. It should be fragmented in 10 pieces, and each piece made to fight against each other, destabilize the whole region, so that Western corporations can come in and start ruling the whole region. And why? Because of resources, and because of Russia has more resources than almost anybody else. That is one reason. And USA is losing control of resources outside in the outside world, in Latin America, in Africa, in Middle East and all that. And without access to resources, USA and the West cannot maintain the high lifestyle that they've gotten used to. They use resources far in excess of what they have in their own land, which has been pilfered, destroyed, and gobbled up. So now the resource crunch is deciding the new world order. The deep state is wanting one kind, and the rest of the world is wanting another kind. And in this turmoil, the final outcome is uncertain, because we might be inching towards a nuclear holocaust. Because Russia is not Middle East, Russia is not Africa, Russia is not Latin America, Russia is Russia. It is one country that has never ever been colonized. USA is a colony of European settlers that exterminated the locals and pillaged the continent for 400 years. Russia has never been colonized. They have been attacked repeatedly for the same thing, resources, by all kinds of people, but they have survived up to now. That is one. And Russia also has nukes, enough to vaporize the whole planet. And that is the other thing. They will not lie down and be destroyed. If necessary, they will fight back with all the might that they have. And that is why we are inching towards a nuclear holocaust. I'm beginning to understand why the West cannot leave Russia alone. The West cannot survive or maintain its high lifestyle without easy access, cheap access to resources around the world, and the resources that they can own. They are running out of options, because the Middle East and Africa and all other regions are slowly easing themselves out of this clutch, of this Western clutch. So the last remaining place is Russia, and Russia has enormous amount of resources. And not only that, Russia is perceived to be weak after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Russia had an economy that was in free fall. Its population is low. Its economy was supposed to be same as that of Spain or Portugal. I mean, just imagine. And all of that has been a lie, either promoted by the deep state or projected by Russia itself as a fake projection that we are weak, so that they leave the world leaves Russia alone. But real story is something else, and I'm still trying to. I find it worthwhile to dig into that, and that has been very difficult for me. Very difficult, because talking with the Russians is a big problem. One is a language problem. The other is half of Russians don't want to speak with you. Many Russians don't want to speak with you. There's an internal silent revolution going on, non-violent revolution going on inside Russia, for multiple reasons. That's a scope and that's a topic of another podcast. So all these reasons, the truth is extremely difficult to unearth from Russian point of view, and the others in the unipolar movement. Yeah, there is opinions available, easily accessible opinions available. I'm trying to talk to some smart people, and that also I will cover. But there are other people who are covering this. The Russian story, the real Russian story of inside Russia, is not being covered by anybody in one statement or one combined projection of what is going on with regard to this Russian and the goings on in Russia. And this is the most curious subject for me, because it is not being talked about by anybody. not in Russian, not in English, not from Russia, not outside Russia, not by third party, not by neutral countries. Nobody, according to me, is putting all this together. So I decided to focus my time on that and not waste my time. I personally come to the conclusion that it's a waste of time joining local groups. I mean, I'm not discouraging you. You go ahead and do it. But for me, it's a waste of time. From my point of view of my age, point of view of my intellect, point of view of my curiosity of what's going on in the world, in all respects, joining the local protest groups is a waste of my time. And I have no shame in admitting it. And that is why I made this movie. And I will be making my own points of view, right or wrong, my own points of view. I have a right up to now to express them. Canada still allows freedom of speech up to a point. May soon go away, and I will not be able to open my mouth, or I'll be able to silenced, and I will maybe they will even, remove my access to internet. All these things are possible and coming. So while I can, I'm making this video. It will be on YouTube. It will be on BitChute. It will be on Odyssey. It will be on maybe Rumble and many other platforms. It will also be on my blog. And perhaps I will share it on Facebook. I understand how Facebook also controls public opinion to suit their agenda. I'm keenly aware how Google manipulates information on YouTube, and also on just simply Google it. You search for something, you research something, you're supposed to ask the question to Google. How Google manipulates this hegemony, and they are the most famous search engine, and they exploit this hegemony to fine-tune the result of your question so that only their version of a corporate version of the deep state version of the answer come to you, and other side of the answer doesn't come to you. This itself is a travesty of freedom of speech, and government, USA or somebody should make a law that such monopoly are not allowed. Theoretically, there is no monopoly because they DuckDuckGo and Bing and this and that, but no proper alternative which is not affiliated to any interest groups, but just free, is not available. And well, we are living in the dark ages, and I believe that we are also living in an intellectual desert. It is an intellectual desert among the common people of the world. This is my opinion. And as long as I have my rights to say my opinion, I'm doing so before it disappears, before the world vaporizes, or before I leave this world for whatever reason. That's it. It's a long talk, but you don't have to listen to all of it. That's for the future generation who might be interested, my relatives or the descendants. They might be interested on what this old man was thinking back in 2023. Thank you.